Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the Zoom meeting slash watching this as a recording. We are here today to talk a little bit about our plans for having offsite dog adoption events at PetSmart stores and hopefully down the road at Petco stores as well. Angela's clicking next and it's not nexting. Okay, so first we're going to talk a little bit about our program vision. Basically, what we're looking to do is see if we can maximize our adoptions of dogs by placing them in different PetSmart stores or Petco stores eventually around the metro. One of our ideas here is really to infiltrate into neighborhoods where we don't have a presence or neighborhoods where other options for adoption are a little bit lower. We also know that we have a pretty significant amount of adoptions happening in the Northland. So initially, we're going to be looking at adding some PetSmart locations in the Northland to see if we can capture some of those Northland adoptions. What this does with PetSmart is it's sort of a mutually beneficial relationship because we get exposure to potential adopters that are shopping in the stores, and the stores are hoping to gain long-term guests in their store, long-term shoppers in their store. Typically, when people buy a new pet, they shop around and get new toys, new collars, new leashes, all those sorts of things. So they're getting an initial purchase most of the time, but they're also passing out coupons for them, and their hope is that they get customers out of this as well. Event preparation. Do you want to see if there's another slide? We're going to talk about event preparation quite a bit here. Make sure that I didn't miss anything. So program vision and why now? Well, now is always a good time. I think in the past we haven't really been prepared or had the bandwidth to really make a program that is sustainable, well thought out, have lots of SOPs, have processes in place, build up a volunteer base. All of these things sort of take a lot of prep time in the beginning. And I don't think that we've had an opportunity to do that in the past. We also know that our adoptions, really in every shelter across the nation, are changing. Dog adoptions are dropping in almost every shelter in the nation. And I think that this is a way that we can try to address it. And I also know that dogs tend to have a lot higher stress in a shelter environment, and so they aren't necessarily showing as well to adopters. And our hope is that we can get these dogs outside of kennels and let them meet adopters in a little bit more relaxed and natural setting on leash in a store. So our goal right now is to see if we can get 20 dog adoptions per weekend at a retail location. And why are we choosing 20 adoptions? It's kind of just a guess right now of what we hope we can do. We have talked to PetSmart stores, and they have partners at the Miriam PetSmart. And those folks, and those are KCK folks, KCK Shelter, they're doing about 25 to 35 adoptions per weekend for dogs. And so we're hoping to get on the lower end of that. The other reason we have this arbitrary goal of 20 is that right now our Zona Rosa location is averaging about 21 dog adoptions per week. So we think that we can probably do as many adoptions as Zona is doing. And if we can, that means that we would be increasing our off-site dog adoptions from 20% of our total adoptions to 40% of our total adoptions. So short term, we're hoping that we can do these events over the next few months, every other weekend. And the reason we're doing it every other weekend is we want to make sure that we can address any problems that we experienced at an event and make any necessary adjustments so that the next event can be even more successful. So while we're building and training up volunteer bases, we're hoping to do every other weekend. So we did one yesterday as a test event. We want to do one again on the 27th of June, and then we'll be skipping 4th of July weekend for obvious reasons. And then the next event we're hoping to have is July the 11th. Our hope is that by the end of July, we can determine if we want to start doing these every weekend, or if we want to keep with every other weekend for another month. All right, our PetSmart goals and expectations. So for now, we know that they want us to increase foot traffic in all of their stores. They're really excited to have dog adoptions in all of their stores, but we've been initially given Shawnee Mission location to move cats into, and so we've done a test event there yesterday, and we'll do another one on the 27th. Like I said, they're hoping to get increased sales out of this. And they do have some expectations in terms of safety in the stores. They also want to make sure that they're processing the adoptions so that they have the opportunity to give them PetSmart coupons. And then the rest of it is sort of a mutual relationship between us and PetSmart. The cool thing about it is that we can link what we are doing with their system so that when they do the payments, it actually connects directly to Casey Pet Project. All right, event preparation is where a lot of the work has been done so far, is us learning how can we prepare for an event. For right now, I'm the main contact with the PetSmart stores, and eventually we want to have a staff member in place that can organize these events and keep everyone sort of on the same page. Right now, we do need to let the stores know in advance that we are going to be in their location or want to have an event. Our hope is that we can have a regular schedule that we know, for example, that we'll be in Shawnee Mission PetSmart on the first Saturday of the month. We might be at the Tiffany Springs PetSmart on the second Saturday of the month. So we do want to kind of get a regular rotation in place. But for now, it's us scheduling out events month by month. We're hoping that we can have volunteers in place 2 weeks in advance of an event. With that, we're kind of figuring out how many volunteers we need in place to pull off an event. We know for sure that we need one dog handler per dog. And we know that we probably need 1 to 2 people every 4 puppies because the puppies were pretty popular yesterday. And then we also want to have adoption counselors in place, as well as a captain for the store to handle the logistics of an event. So the preparation that happens the week of an event is mostly about dog selection. Depending on a Missouri versus Kansas event, there's slightly different things that we'll have to prep in advance of an event. So what we are going to do is look at multiple ways that dogs can get to an event. First will be us creating a staff-approved list of dogs that can go. With that list, we are hoping that we can have handlers sign up to come pick up a dog from the list and take that dog to the event, stay with the dog, and then transport the dog to an adoption kennel, either at the Zona Rosa location or at the main campus if the dog is not adopted. So that kind of looks like our normal process here of choosing dogs for Zona Rosa, for example. Because if we want the dogs to go directly from event to Zona Rosa, the dogs that we're selecting would have to be good at both Zona Rosa and at PetSmart. The other thing we're really looking at is any dogs that are no dog dogs or have any type of reactivity on leash, or any dogs that might not be a good fit for children, are probably going to be the dogs that are not on our list for PetSmart. We also are not going to send any dogs to a store that have medical consults attached to their profile because we won't be able to do a med consult from the store. And in terms of behavior consults, we will have a select list that we will be able to do at a store, but anything that would be above and beyond a pre-written behavior consult would have to not go to a PetSmart store. So one One avenue, like I said, is us pre-selecting dogs that can go. We do want to give staff and volunteers the option to nominate a dog that they want to take that week. And what this would look like is if a regular dog walker is really connected to a particular dog, they could ask to take that dog to a PetSmart event. And they would fill out a form with just a couple of questions on it. And then the staff would review that dog to make sure that it fits all of the criteria that we talked about above. So we're really trying to look for reasons to say yes to any dog going to a PetSmart event, but safety is also our number one concern. So that process would take up to a week because we would want to have those submissions early in the week, have time to review the dog, and then schedule the dog for any medical things that need to happen, including a health cert if they're going to Kansas. So those are two ways that they can go. Another avenue is foster, and this could be in either our DDO program, short-term foster, or long-term foster. And the dogs being approved would be the same process for any of the methods that we would select. The unique thing about Kansas locations is that we do have to have a health certificate for a dog to cross the state lines. So if we're doing an event in Kansas, the dog would need a health cert for any Kansas location. They have to have a destination on the health certificate. So if a dog is going to be going to 2 different stores in Kansas, for example, they would need 2 health certs, one for each location. Why this needs a little bit extra prep work is because a veterinarian has to do an examination to sign that health certificate. So we are going to have predetermined appointments for health certificates to get signed. Those health certificates are only good for 7 days. So this would all have to happen the week before an event. All right, so our new dog day out option, we're going to be announcing, I think this week actually should have a lot of press releases going out. And this new program is a short-term foster. That is an expansion of the DDO program and not quite as long as a long-term foster. Our thought process around this actually stems from a study done by Dr. Gunter, who realized through research that a dog's cortisol levels do drop after leaving the shelter and sleeping in a foster home for 2 nights. And that even when a dog is returned to the shelter after a 2-night stay, their cortisol levels never went up as high as they were before they left to sleep at someone's house for 2 nights. So we're trying to capitalize on this this research study about cortisol levels because we want to impact dogs' stress levels in a positive way. So this new program is basically going to be dogs leaving for short-term foster for 2 nights minimum and up to 5 or 6 nights. They would then go either back to the main shelter, to Zona Rosa, or to one of our PetSmart or Petco events. If we're flowing our dogs properly through our system, the dogs would be identified pretty early so that they can get health certs done at the time of surgery and be ready to go to a PetSmart event that weekend, especially if they're going to Kansas. So this new dog foster option would help us to reduce the population here on campus. It would help us with transport to our events and to Zona Rosa. And obviously, the most important thing, help the dogs. Okay, so our event process on the day of, we are looking at several possible roles, but we may need to expand or change these roles as we go. We know that we would like a captain or co-captain, some type of a lead volunteer at each of our locations. Now, why is that needed? Well, the reason that's needed is because we don't have a staff member that's assigned to this. And even when we do have a staff member assigned to organizing these events, one person can't be at multiple locations at once. In our ideal world, we would want to be able to have an event at multiple locations on the same day without having one person drive all over the world trying to cover that. And so having a volunteer in charge of being the logistical captain at the location really makes sense for us. And we use this same system on the cat side with our Petco stores to take care of our cats at all of the Petco stores. So we're kind of capitalizing on that idea that we can have someone who knows the ins and the outs and can pull off an event with support from other volunteers. So this captain and co-captain could look a couple different ways. When we met with folks in the Northland, they suggested that they just be a pod of people that goes from one Northland location to another as a team, and we think that is kind of a great idea. And if we do that, having a captain, a co-captain, even a backup captain to the backup captain would be a great idea. We also think that we'll need a guest services person, and that guest services person would help us with setup and teardown. It really only took us about 15 minutes to set up for this event yesterday, but I think if we had a large majority of dogs, it might take a little bit longer than 15 minutes. It would be basically setting up a table, chairs, putting out a tablecloth that is branded, and then setting up X pens in advance of the dogs arriving, and puppy pads because puppies. The guest services person then has a couple different options. They could probably help with basic cleaning throughout the event, helping the people who are handling the puppies with getting puppy pads in and out of the cages, making sure the dogs have toys, those kinds of things. But our guest services person could also help with matchmaking and talking to adopters about the adoption process. We definitely know we need a dog handler for each dog. Our goal is to not have dogs in crates because we want them to feel relaxed in the store. And the dog handler's main job is going to be to make sure that the dogs are okay and that the people interacting with the dogs are doing so in a safe and respectful way. We had someone from Foster come yesterday, and it was the foster for Robin Hood. And Robin Hood did a great job for about an hour and a half. And then Robin Hood got a little bit restless and decided to grab a toy off the shelf, as one would do, and destroy it, which is fine. Had a great time, but the foster was like, I think he's kind of done with the event. And we want our handlers to have the authority to say, like, oh, I think my dog is ready to go and be able to leave. The dog handlers are also free to move about the store as long as they're not interacting with any of the cats that are in the location, our cats or any other organization's cats, and obviously interacting in a safe way with other guests in the building. We want the dog handlers to be able to take them out to go to the bathroom, do all the things, but basically their main job is to make sure the dogs are okay and also talk to potential adopters about the dog that they're handling today. And then puppy handlers, obviously are handling puppies. When we were at the event yesterday, I think we had no less than 30 people that wanted to hold puppies and just visit them, which is fine. But we do think we need one person per 4 puppies. And then the last piece we know we need for sure is someone who's willing to help with the adoption paperwork. We are trying to get these done as electronic adoptions. So it would mostly be doing the paperwork part, but not PetPoint part. If we decide we need to add PetPoint in the future, we would have to have some training around that. But right now we just want basic paperwork happening, and then they would pass the adopters off to a PetSmart person who would process the payments. Okay, I talked a little bit about this before, but this is what we think the summer is going to look like in terms of our launch. So we did an event yesterday, another one the 27th, which is confirmed. On July 11th, we would like to ask the Tiffany Springs location to let us be at that event. The one we did on yesterday, we started at 3:30, and traffic kind of died out around 4:30 for the store. So the one on June 27th, we're going to try to do noon to 2 or noon to 3 and see how that goes. On the 11th, we're hoping to do something similar, but we may need to work around a cat rescue that's in that store on the same day. July 20th through the 26th is the National Adoption Week for PetSmart. We are hoping to do multiple events that week, but we would need a lot of volunteer support for those because it would be difficult to get a staff member to all the events that we would want to have that week. We're hoping to do an event at 3 stores, hopefully that week, if we can. But like I said, we would need to have volunteers that feel confident in the process itself. So we would hope to have some of you visit us on June 27th or July 11th to get used to that process and see how those go. In August, we're probably going to be doing every other week still in August. The only way we could do every week, once again, is if we have volunteers ready to do those events. And the main reason for that is because there's weekends that I'm not available to go out. So we would have to have a volunteer that is leading those events those weeks in August. September through November, we're hoping to be able to do one a weekend. And then by December, we're hoping to be able to do several events per week. All right, so next steps. Next steps is we are having an event on June 27th in Shawnee Mission PetSmart, starting at noon. If you would like to help with this event and see what it's all about, then we would please ask that you contact Angela. Volunteer at kcpetproject.org. Please let us know if you're able to help and in what capacity you would be able to help. The week of June 15th, so we are going to review all of the policies and procedures. We would be happy to send out any of our rough drafts of policies and procedures, SOPs that have been written. I'm happy to send any of those out to anyone who would like to read them. They are rough drafts. We will adjust as we go, but without having done a ton of events, this was our closest attempt at an SOP. June 21st. I think this is our Zoom meeting for prepping for the 27th. So if you are available to help on the 27th, we need to know prior to June 21st so we can include you on that prep. And then the June 27th is the adoption event. Week 29th, right after that next event, we would love to hear feedback from all the volunteers so that we can make any adjustments that we need to make, because we will be working on that before we do the July 11th event at Tiffany Springs, hopefully, which is not confirmed yet, but hopefully. That's the end of the slideshow. Yes. Okay, folks, so thank you for attending. I know that you probably still have a lot of questions about events. Please reach out if you want any of the information about the SOPs, how we're choosing dogs. All of that is as typed out as I possibly can right now, and I'm happy to share any of those. And if you have any glaring concerns that you see from your end, please reach out about those too. If we've missed anything, we would rather hear from you about the things that we've missed before we get to an event.